Hello and welcome to another edition of Layback with Betfair. I'm your host, Nick Foote, once again filling in for the human vacation that is Tom Haylock on a beach somewhere in Sydney. The great thing is, though, our expert panel remains the same. First of all, Reece Goodwin, Pakenham-based trainer, caramel latte enthusiast. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, good to be back. Week 3. Got some great racing coming up this weekend. Can't wait to get stuck into it.
Good stuff. And our number one form analyst, the best in the biz, Jules Vallance. Welcome, my friend.
No, good to be here and good to see you turned up. Half an hour late, Reece. But anyway, let's move on.
The time management at Reece Goodwin Racing needs some serious work, doesn't it?
There's some boxes to be done there, boys, if you know where to pick up some horse manure.
I'll tap out there. Hey, quickly before we get into this week, let's just touch back on last week. Now, mixed results from the team. I myself laid elliptical, which a little bit of egg on face there because it was huge. But came back with my best with Anavisto and Scolopini also saluting. Now, Jules, you stopped the world's best sprinter in Nature Strip last week.
Yeah, and he's gone now, I think. I think they're saying they won't go and have another run. They'll just go straight into TJ. He'd need a really wet track, I think, to get back. He was beyond playing. The market wanted him, though. So it goes to show that the market still thinks he can produce that figure. Don't think we'll see the firmness in the marketplace. TJ, I was horrible last week, no doubting that. 2 lays did get beat, so we can hang my hat on that, but anyone can do that.
Yeah, form is temporary, class is permanent, I believe is the expression, Jules, so it'll rise. And Reece Goodwin, hey, you're an each-way specialist here on Layback, and Exolita was well spotted last week, and you also had Cylinder in the Silver Slipper too.
I don't want to take anything away from your best, but her Exolita missing the start by 4. I don't know. I'm not saying that she would have beat Anavisto, but she was really good, and that was the problem. Blinker's first time, she was slow away, got nowhere near him. She was great late, but I'll take the result last week each way. We got out of trouble there.
Good stuff. Hey, it is now time to get in the serious part of the show, which is the lay bin. Things that we just want to put in the bin from, it could be racing related or anything from around the world. Reece, what about yourself?
Oh, just the 24 hours I've had. I had to put the sale twilight meeting in the lay bin. Big day yesterday. Got home late. Had to do some form for the show. Had a busy morning, so yeah, just a quick lay bin. The twilight meeting's 3 hours. Whatever way sale is from Melbourne, it was a long trip, I know that much.
The Wednesday twilight meetings are gathering some momentum in the lay bin with Moe as well.
Yeah.
For the previous
I'll take
week.
Moe. Moe's a lot closer than Sale.
Yeah. Now, Jules, you're being best on in the lay bin segment and most controversial. What are we rolling with this week?
Well, I had a serious one that was going to talk about the governing bodies continually extending the carnivals. In essence, it's just a money grab with getting premium meetings from the tax. But I'll just make it simple. Wine. I don't understand it. White is devil's tears, so that sends me to a different planet. And red, I'm just not cultured enough. So I just can't have either.
Really?
But I know a lot of people are right into this red wine, but in summer, wouldn't it be just too hot? I mean, do you drink red wine?
I love red wine.
Of course you do.
And and I don't play it up. When I go to the winery and do the testing, I'm not the guy sitting there pretending that I can getting all the aromas. I'm not that guy. But I do appreciate a nice glass of red, but I'm not going full level wine wanker.
Yeah, just the wanker, not wine. But anyway, that's a simple one. Wine. I'm just not a good enough human, I don't think, to be able to understand it.
Yeah,
so we move on.
That's fair enough. Lay bin for me this week a little bit left field. I'm putting Puffin books in the lay bin this week. Now,
Roald Dahl's got you, hasn't
he? Yeah, Roald Dahl's got me. It's been well published this week that the latest Roald Dahl edits are having words taken out and replaced that may be offensive to some people. So we've got words like fat being replaced with enormous, which personally I'd probably find more offensive. And that's in like the editions of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And then also words like crazy and ugly being taken out. Like what's that about? And then we've got the Oompa Loompas as small men now being referred to as small people. So
small thems.
Small them.
Fisher thems.
Where's that at? What if they are small men? Like who's to say? So if you're getting offended by this, you've got to get on the 10-metre diving board and go head first straight into the lay bin. Not happy with that.
Yep. But, I don't know if that would be allowed either. I think Puffin would probably cancel you as well, mate, if you're going head-footed into a lay-bin.
Well, I figured
full of concrete, I'm assuming.
I figured with Tom Haylock likely back next week, I might go out.
I'll go out swinging.
With something controversial.
Yeah, good.
I've filled this studio with uppercuts in the lay bin this week. Now, boys, serious stuff. We've got to get to some racing. We've got 5 Group 1s across 2 states this week, which I'm really looking forward to dissecting with both of you. And we'll start proceedings at Sandown. Now, this nearly made the lay bin itself at Sandown, and that is that we're running on the lakeside. There's 2 races on the hillside, and there's also a shoot start that then amends the finishing post to be 80 metres past the traditional finishing post. So we're effectively doing form for 3 different tracks in one track. Jules, over to you in terms of track conditions.
Yeah, so we are, but I think the positive is I think they'll all play just about the same. So the 2 1,800-metre races will come from the hillside, but when it's a good track, probably expect the upgrade to a good 3 at some stage. That's
definitely.
just the way we've been running in summer in Melbourne, and it's great. Rail in the true, I think forward of midfield is the advantage there from the hillside 1,800 metres, so that's that part. The lakeside around the circle, forward of midfield as well. They seem to Shanghai off that bend, so that's where you want to be. And then you got that shoot, which is obviously the Oakley plate. I don't think barriers are going to be too important. It's worth noting, though, there's going to be 30 to 45 kilometre northerly. So what does that mean for Sandown track? It's actually a tailwind more or less out, down the home straight. So for that shoot, it's going to be a tailwind. So that possibly can help leaders as well. So I think starting point, forward of midfield for every race, even though they're coming out of all different starting points.
We've only had, is it 2 races out of the shoot from the 1100 at Sandown? The new shoot?
We've had a few. So that jigsaw, and then we had all those. We had 4 races, the 2 preludes.
Yeah, did I hear, was there a bit of talk like they had all been pretty on speed? I know it's a very small sample. It's hard to.
Well,
to
Lofty Strike one coming off. So I think you can. Again, starting point. I think just don't be too worried about the barriers. I think barriers and positioning run around that 1,200 metre circle is really crucial. But I don't think as much as what will be for the Oakley plate. And the other thing is the Oakley plate. I think we're all probably going to have it mapping really high tempo.
Good speed regardless.
They're all going to get
the tempo is probably going to offset a little bit as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's whatever's going to be able to absorb the pressure and being able to finish off. So yeah, there's a couple of different moving parts, but at least we're providing all the info out there so you can.
And it is really challenging for punters at home to get their heads around that, and that's why you're here, Jules, to be able to educate everyone. But we're going to try and keep it pretty simple with the 4 races we're going to preview at Sandown today, because they are on that lakeside track, and obviously the Oakley plate, which comes out of the shoot start. We'll kick off in race 4, which is the Group 3 Zetative Stakes for the 3-year-olds, and it's over 1,200 metres. There's a couple of exciting 3-year-olds lining up here for this year's edition. You've got Rich Fortune, Queen of the Ball, Wee Nessie, and La Donce.
Number 10.
Yeah, number 10. La Danseuse Rouge, we'll go with. They all come through the Kevin Hayes, which was run here out of the shoot start a fortnight ago. And then you've got Spacewalk, who's a last start winner at Rose Hill. Has had a trial between runs. And then the other 5 runners, they all either present first up or bring a completely different form line. So, Jules, I guess the question for you is, what's the A1 form reference for a race like this, and are you keen to get involved in the betting?
I'm not so keen to get involved in this race because I found it really tricky. So you've got to try and marry up all these kinds of form lines that we see. And usually that gives us an edge because you can identify one above the rest or the pattern. But I looked at all of these horses and I went, yeah, you might be a chance. You know, you take that Rich Fortune who's going really well. Jerome Hunter, I think, is 11 from his last 18, just exceeding market expectation, blowing it through the water. But I'm sort of against that horse. I'm happy to sort of lay Rich Fortune on Saturday. I just think the way this sets up. Spacewalk, I thought, was really good. Last start in Sydney, like I think its last 400 2 was only eclipsed by the Remark race, which obviously went enormous last 400, 200, so that's a good form line. Jamie Carr goes on, inside gate, positive around Lakeside. Even a horse like Sebenak, who's theoretically been going no good.
Remark form.
The
trial was really good too in Sydney, and then he backed it up with a good first up run.
It's a pure dry tracker, I reckon, and so he gets it on Saturday. And so then I thought it's a chance. I marked it a lot shorter than the market. So it's a race I'm staying out of. Even recommendation, it comes from Mara and Eustace. That form line I think could be okay. It's just whether do you trust it leading at Canterbury on possibly a real leader bias track, and now got gate 8 and probably doesn't find the rail on Saturday? So is that a disadvantage for it? But it still ran pretty good time. I think last 400, 200, just about the best of the day when it won. It's a race that's got many different variables to it, and it's a race because of that. I'm happy to be against, but I'm happy to lay Rich Fortune.
And Reece, you're getting involved as well?
Yeah, so they all come out of that. The main ones came out of that race, apart from Spacewalk. So I'm going to go with La Danse Rouge, because just from a trainer's point of view, I know Cliff a little bit. His horses always improve a few lengths out of their first up run. He never has them screwed down first up. She was only a length off Rich Fortune. First up, I think she can turn the tables. Ethan Brown, who's dead set flying, gets it on the minimum each way bet. It was more just at the market, to have Rich Fortune 550 and this horse double figures. I thought each way price there. And then, as we mentioned, Sebenak at the price. If you're going to tie in space, you've got to tie him in, and you're getting nearly close to 20 to 1 with Ollie on, so you might be able to have a spec on it as well. Yeah,
it's a great different ways to look at this race. And you touched on who I'm going to be with, Jules, here in recommendation. I just really like the way he went about it last start at Canterbury, and you spoke that that it might be a leaders track and a hot rail there, but he did have to do a little bit of work early, and then actually ran the fastest 6 to the 4, and that was of the entire meeting, and then was running away from them through the line. So Two Back also has form around Think About It, who is favourite for the Liverpool City Cup at group level at Randwick on Saturday too. He's obviously up in class here from 64 grade, but I think just looks at the overs around that $8-9 in terms of recommendation. So I'll be getting involved there as well, boys, and backing recommendation. Let's head to race 7 now, which is the Group 1 Blue Diamond Stakes for the 2-year-olds over 1,200. And this is a race that just always presents as a bit of value for the punters. You only have to look at the last 3 years. Dormier, $20. Artorias in 2021 at $13, and Tagaloa in 2020 at $26. So no different this year. Speed map looks to be really important, and you touched on it earlier in the show, Jules, with the rail and the true, and you wouldn't want to be too far off them, but being a Blue Diamond, it'll be run fast. Yeah,
absolutely, and I think it'll be run fast because I think jockeys will understand that I need to be forward of midfield. And even just some of the key chances have drawn really tricky, I think. Like Barber in 9, got a decision to make there that I don't think they'll want to go worse than midfield, so they won't be neutral. So they've got to push up. So if they push up, then the inside horses have to hold their spot, and all of a sudden you've got really good pressure, which usually we have in a diamond anyway. I don't think you really see a diamond sit up a fair and a horse tips off and wins by 6. So there's going to be that kind of scenario. It's whether you trust the Barber form line probably versus the Philly form line of Exploring, and I think the Barber form line's better. And then you've got to trust, okay, Barber form line versus the Sydney form line of the other Philly Steel City. And I'm with the Sydney form because I think that is the best 2-year-old form that we've seen throughout. It missed it last start by probably half a length, and then you add that in that they've got blinkers first time. So there's a little trick here for Steel City that it has to be clean away. Because I think it's a horse that's got gate speed and can settle in the first 4 or 5, and I think that's where it wins its race here, if it settles in the first 4 or 5. If it is to miss the start again, instead of being in the first 4 or 5, it actually goes probably fullback rail.
And then if he was slow away, you'd rather him be drawn off the track.
Correct.
It's going to be cluttered up inside run.
Exactly. You just can't win. You just cannot win from fullback rail or Blue Diamond. But I think it's the best form line, and I just trust the camp. I love Blake Shin in the saddle. I think it settles in the first 4 or 5, and I want to be with it. And but I think it's going to be a really interesting race, and it'll be interesting to see what the market does as well, because I'm happy to sort of be against Barber to a certain degree, but he's done nothing wrong. I just don't know where he gets to from the map, and I just think around the circle he may be the horse that's 3 wide punching, and you're going to have to be really good to be able to win from there. I've got no issue with horses being wide around sprint distances, but just when they're so even, every little bit matters, I think.
And Reece the Shake Goodwin, you have a different view of this.
Well,
Blue Jackets.
I can't jump off him. I mean, I was on him first up, and people are saying Brave Halo could have beat him, should have beat him. You can't really say for sure, because I just find with Barber, he's winning. He's not putting them away and winning by space. He's a bit, in my view, a bit Animo-like. Never going to win by a big margin. He only does what he has to. Hasn't got any real turn of foot, but he's just got, obviously it's tons of ability. And I just can't get off him. Jamie Carr sticks. Brave Halo, you can't tell me gate 16's any better for him.
Yeah. I mean, he's got to find a backside, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like, he's not going. I don't think they're going to push the button on him.
He's going to need,
and he's going to need
Ollie
someone.
special.
So he's got to tag the right horse in, isn't he? And he's got to get to that point.
Yeah.
So tricky for him.
Yeah. So look, I'm scared terrible of Steel City because it is probably the right form lines, but I'm not going to back off me man Barber. As I said, all those points, the draw might be sticky, but I've just got this feeling that he's going to be second, third pair, 3 deep, 4 deep with a bit of cover and actually be in the right spot. Like, I think middle of the line, if I wanted to draw somewhere with a 2-year-old, it's middle of the line.
Yep.
It could easily end up looking horrible at some stage, but if I had to pick a barrier, it would have been 7, 8, 9, 10. So I think it might be right.
Doesn't this race just illustrate how toxic futures betting can be into a race like this? Because personally, like the ones I was looking at leading into the here is, I want to be with perhaps Brave Halo or even VC.
Yeah, I was going to say, was VC really short at one stage?
Form, coming through that Chairman's, I think it was. I kind of wanted to be with that. And then you see the barrier draw and you're like, well, I've just got to pen them straight up just because of the draw.
Like elliptical?
Yeah, okay. Let's not go there too early. I'm still hurting there. I'm going with a 2-bet play in this race, and Jules, I'm with Steel City as well for all the reasons you mentioned. That's the A1 form reference through the learning to fly through the Widden for me. And then I'm going one at a bit of value around $20, and that's number 11, Party for Two. I thought she was really strong in that fillies prelude. She showed some toe early from the wide draw to get across and sit outside exploring, and she continued to find the line when asked. So 1,200 metres looks a tick. She's rock hard fit, and the key here is she gets barrier number 1. So Damien Batters and Nikita Berryman, you wouldn't find that combination in too many Group 1s in Melbourne, I wouldn't have thought.
I'll tell you what, I'll take my hat off to him if he can win this race, because she's had one start before Christmas, and then she's had 3 since. So she's sort of had a little freshen up in between, but come down from Queensland, 5th run in sort of thing, to be able to win would be a massive effort. And so good luck to them. They're obviously the battlers of the race, and battlers have won this race before. So.
Yeah, well,
he's gone with
Miracles of Life.
Exactly. He's gone with battlers up for too long, and I've gone with rock hard fit. Love the insight.
I like it. That's
good.
But that horse is an interesting horse because it almost holds the key to the race, because Nikita's going to have to make a decision. Does she hold that barrier and kick up and lead? Because if she decides to go, I want to sit leaders back, I don't think it can win. So then all of a sudden that pressure comes from the outside. So it's going to be genuine speed. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do from 1.
Yeah, they shouldn't muck around it here.
I wouldn't have thought so.
And then you throw the instructor and all that.
Correct, because they're going to come across and obviously be.
My thinking is she kicks up, and that's the premise of why I'm on. So there we go.
And we haven't even spoke about Don Corleone, who sort of was the big spruik horse after winning, like Farlap as a 2-year-old. So first start. And I don't know what to make of him, to be honest. He's one of those ones where I can sort of mark him around a little bit shorter than the market, but do I want to be on? Probably not. But you trust the camp, and great draw, good jock. Like, he can come out and blow him away. And people go, oh, well, you got to trust Snowden's, just see what it did on debut. Yeah. And that's the narrative.
Yeah. And he's got the soft draw that he might be just right in behind that really hot tempo.
Yeah.
But then he's probably going to rely on, if they're going really hard and they're coming back in his face, you're going to have to get room. It's not always the right thing with the 2-year-old. So there's so many variables in this race.
Yeah.
Well, I hope we've found the winner in there somewhere. Anyway.
If we haven't mentioned it, we're in a lot of trouble.
Little Bruce has a chance.
Hang on, what else have we missed here?
We got the market order
Just
up
sonic
there.
boom.
Yeah. Perfect. Hey, race number 8 is the Group 1 Futurity Stakes. It's weight for age 1,400 metres. Now, boys, done a little bit of research here. And
I like it.
Be careful. The horse that won this race in 1902 was called Sir Foot. If the MRC are looking for a rebrand, Sir Foot sounds like a pretty good Group 1 weight for age name for me.
Are you being honest and saying you researched this? I'm
just saying, I've just looked through the winners.
Someone didn't tell you.
Sir Foot was the 1902 winner, and I think that's a Group 1 weight for age name. How many pages back is that?
That's a lot of pages.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, there's got to be something here for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, boys, Alligator Blood, I'm Thunderstruck, Mr. Brightside, Aegon, and Nugget. They all come through the CF Alligator Blood doesn't. They come through the CF All Stakes. They remain at 1,400. You then have the 2 Annabelle Nation runners here, Laws of Indices and My Oberon, who bring that Sydney form or present first up. There is a little bit of to unpack here. But first of all, I guess, Jules, how do you assess horses that race better over further but remain at 1,400 second up?
Yeah, so a horse like, you talk about I'm Thunderstruck, who probably is just, you would suggest, is screaming for 1,600 metres, but probably also the thing for I'm Thunderstruck is the key race for it to win, no doubt this prep is probably the All-Star Mile, so you got to get to it. So you start from the All-Star Mile and then work your way back, and they probably wanted to be third up into the All-Star Mile, and this fits for it. So is it better over 1,600 metres? Yes. Does it mean it can win at 14? Well, absolutely not. It can definitely win this race. And the market identified that first up in the order. The market wanted to be with I'm Thunderstruck, so it carries that into it. I thought at the 200 metres it was really good, and then probably petered out that last 100 metres.
Against those horses,
correct,
too,
absolutely.
These sections are probably still pretty good.
Well, his 4 to his 2 I think was really good, and then he probably just had enough. Yeah. So he derives plenty of fitness out of that. But you might be the best horse in the race, but again it comes down to how you think this race is going to be run. So a little bit different to the Ore. We know probably the genuine leader here is going to be Alligator Blood. That's what he does, so he rolls forward. Does he need one more? Does he usually takes one run. He's always been competitive first up, but it's not his peak performance. So does he need one? Is he just soft in that last 100, 150 metres to allow something to get over the top of him? But what we do know is he'll go forward, and I don't think he'll go overly slow. That's not his makeup. And I think the key factor here is now we've found the leader. What's its outside leader? And for me, I think Mr. Brightside, now that it's drawn sort of that middle peg,
there's a bit more versatility there.
He's
Mr.
just
Brightside.
got his best ever performances are when he rolls on speed. And I think now it presents. He couldn't first up in the Ore because he drew so badly. And if you roll the dice, you can ruin your prep. They go back, they take their medicine, he runs on, they all ran on, so don't get sucked into the blinding lights like you do, Woody. But I think because he sits outside leader now, I think he's the winner, Mr. Brightside. He's the one that I sort of think is pretty good value. Thunderstruck can win, Alligator Blood can win. It's a good race, it's a good even race, but I think the way this sets up, Mr. Brightside sits outside Alligator Blood, fitness edge gets him, Thunderstruck has last crack, just doesn't get there. That's the way I see it playing out.
Yeah, it's true what you said with Alligator Blood obviously being first up. But he's just such a pit bull. He just is. He's just a gutsy boy, isn't he? And he's going to be hard to get past. And it's a really even field. Are you playing at all in this race?
No,
Reece?
not really keen to get involved. It just I'm Thunderstruck stays at 1400. You think that's a negative, but as Jules said, they've planned for the All-Star Mile. Like, this is a camp that don't just go along and find the race 2 weeks later. Like, they've planned this. He did take all of the 1600 to beat Alligator Blood last prep, but yeah, look, if you had to screw me down to have a bet, it'd be I'm Thunderstruck because he's drawn to get the run right behind him. He was good first up. I think they'd like to win going into the All-Star Mile, and I think he's rock hard fit second up. Alligator Blood, he's won 3 times first up. I guess obviously he does improve. You know, that's probably from early doors. He does improve, but I think from what I've seen at the trials, he's been given good jump outs. I mean, he trialled with Elliptical the last one, and he was given a really good trial.
It's a good form reference, that one.
Lucky this one's drawn a bit better. So, I just wanted to stay out, but you're probably right. If Mr. Brightside can be outside leader, I think he's probably an in-play sort of watch. But yeah, I just wanted to stay out. I thought it was too even. If there was one you wanted to spec at a price, was probably Aegon. But if the race is dominated by Alligator Blood, I'm Mr. Brightside outside leader, and I'm Thunderstruck just behind them. I don't know if he can get over the top of them. They'd probably have to go to pretty hot.
Does Aegon want some give?
Probably, and probably a handicap. Like, he's a horse that could get 3 or 4 kilos off these other good ones just with the way the domestic rating is. So he's going really well. I thought his run first up was outstanding, but he just probably needs a little bit of relief.
That's it, because you probably would, off form, you would say he needs a bit of sting out. But like, that was a good 3.
He
ran on the other day, so he has ran well on it. But probably to beat the elite or close to the elite, he probably does need that sting out. And as you said, a little bit less weight against these.
We talked about, we think Mr. Brightside maybe sits outside Alligator Blood, and then we go, well, Thunderstruck's drawn 3, so does he get the 1-1? But you look inside, and gate 1 and 2 is Mr. Mozart and Nugget. Now, my feeling is Mr. Mozart will definitely want to hold its position, so it gets leaders back. And I reckon Nugget was ridden pretty warm first up in the Ore, and he probably does the same again. He could get 1-1. And if he gets 1-1, then Thunderstruck's got to get Nuggets back. Or take 3 wide. And won't take 3 wide. You've got to take Nuggets. So then you've got to go completely outside. You're not going to get a run in between Alligator Blood and Mr. Brightside. You've got to come around both of them. You might get past one of them. I don't know if you get past both of them. That's the way I see this race mapping.
Very much
I think that's important.
Race.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a good segue into my lay, because I am going to be laying on Thunderstruck this week. And yeah, look, one win since that Golden Eagle victory in 2021, and that was nailing Alligator Blood
at a mile.
Yeah, on the line in the Maccabi Diva. So The money didn't match the performance first up in the Ore because he's absolutely smashed late everywhere, and then
loomed.
Yeah, wanted to lay in did a little bit wrong as well.
Yeah,
wanted to lay
always
in,
done that.
Did a few things wrong, and yeah, I thought Mr. Brightside was excellent. I think Nugget's going to be hard to get past, as I mentioned. Alligator Blood is just so gutsy. So I think there's a lot of things that has to go in I'm Thunderstruck's favour, and currently as favourite, I'm happy to take on that price and lay on Thunderstruck. So that's how I'll be playing the Futurity or the Surfoot stakes there. Wait for age.
It'll happen.
Yeah, we'll get it over the line. I hear on layback. Race 9 now. This is the race I'm looking forward to the most and just dissecting with you guys. It's the Group 1 Oakley Plate. It's a handicap 1,100 metres out of the shoot start this year at Sandown. And we saw a couple of these, we mentioned at the top of the show, a couple of these shoot start races in the preludes and that jigsaw race you referenced. Jules, how much do barriers matter here, and how hard is it to map a race like the Oakley Plate? Because we always hear it every year, they're going to go like Oakley Platers, you know, they're going to go fast. It's a cliche, but it rings true.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, big fields sort of sometimes do generate that, and I know in staying races we don't get these fast run races, but in this kind of setup with these horses, they're going to go at a really good, genuine clip. They just are. And usually that finds out the best horse. Now, the unfortunate thing here is I think there's going to be some hard luck tails in this race. It's just the way the Oakley Plate is. Might be not as bad as Caulfield because it's a little bit tighter. Now you've got this shoot. I think there'll be horses fanning from everywhere, but there's still going to be with those 1 or 2 horses back to the inside. Now, you're not going to know which horses they are at the moment. One's going to have to get some luck and one's not. And that's why this race is really tricky. I mean, I've marked this race $9 the field, so that's my favourite, $9. Wow. Yeah. That's how tricky it is. And they're all genuine, you know, there's 5 or 6 sort of around that mark. So I couldn't pick it out. I mean, IME's a really interesting horse from that inside gate. Does Jamie want to actually be really aggressive and try and hold the lead? Or does she just sort of sit back and say, get leaders back, because then it becomes really tricky for her? So that's a decision there in itself. And then you've got these other horses that we know are fast, As4 and those kinds of horses that need to lead. It sets up to be an absolute ripper. I couldn't really pin one down because I just thought there was nothing really there that was a massive over for me. We'll see what happens at the death. I've got a feeling that the big guys will launch one. Unfortunately, I don't know what that one is yet. But it just sets up that we'll know the pattern of the day, whether that's to wide barriers for some reason.
Well, will we out of the shoot start in the Oakley Plate in terms of knowing the pattern, not having a shoot start?
That's a good. That's a good point as well. But maybe the track itself, like, are they coming off the inside or is the inside completely dynamite? We just don't know.
Because if they're getting away from the fence, IME's drawn one.
Correct.
He's going to be soft and much for sure.
Absolutely. So I think there's going to be some big swings in the market. So I would be saying to the punters out there, wait to the death. I think you're going to get a really good guide from it. There's no need to rush in now.
Yep.
With this kind of market, the way it's sitting at $6 or $7 the field, there's just no need to have a bet until you gather as much market intelligence, see them parade, and then make your decision. Have probably 4 or 5 in your head that you want to sort of work around, and then go from there. But
you'll be getting the price really regardless which one.
Absolutely, and really excited to see the race. I think it's the spring race of the autumn, no doubt. But I couldn't narrow it down, that's for sure.
Well, he makes us sound like fools, doesn't he? Because he says, "Don't get involved."
You're launching.
And now
2 against 1.
And now Reece,
he's the fool.
Reece and the host were about to get involved.
Well, look, I'm just gonna, as I was with Barber, he tips 2 weeks. I'm just gonna stick with Marine One. He was 12 months off into that race at Sandown, and unfortunately got probably exposed earlier than what he would have liked. And, you know, he's got the Uncommon James for... Yes, they beat him, Uncommon James and Lofty Star. He's got to turn that around. But I think off the big break, I thought he was forward enough because he'd had the 3 jump outs. But I just thought he got exposed pretty early, didn't get the right track into the race. If you can get the right run at that type of price, I mean, he wasn't that far off.
No, and that was a good rating race too, a ripping race.
He was weighted poorly in that route
that too,
and gets back to 54 kilos.
So, look, we're looking at like over 20 to 1 for this horse, and it's one of these races, and there's not a lot between them, I don't think, and it's going to come down to luck and running, how the track's playing. I just thought at those odds, I'd have to be with him. And then as for, I just couldn't poison. I thought just can't have her at all. Her win at Caulfield, I think it was first up last prep. They just walked in front, and they dead set left her alone, and all she had to do was rip up 400, and that's what she does. You know, I just think at this level, high pressure race, I just think it's going to bring her undone, and just could not have her anywhere near that price.
Yeah, I love Asfour as a horse, but she's beaten Kalos and Verenskova in her 2 starts and presents here first up in what's going to be a rapidly run race. Yeah. So I totally understand the key points you make there. I'm siding with Uncommon James in this race. I thought his return in the Rubiton was excellent. That's the form line I'm going to follow. A little bit of a concern over his fitness, how he would return off that fetlock injury that kept him out of spring, and big money came for him on the exchange late, and he did peak on his run, but I think it just tops him up perfectly for this. Drops 4.5 kilos, and yeah, drawn barrier 14, so can just sort of stalk and blend into the race, I think, where he wants to. And I think it's important to note as well, like 8 of the last 11 winners of the Oakley Plate have started, 54 kilos and under. So you want to be with, like, history tells us certain things, and I know this is the first time it's been, we're away from Caulfield here for this, but like, if history tells us anything, that's a pretty strong pattern. So
it's a good profile, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So I want to be with something down in the weights.
They won't be changing the name of this race?
No.
Okay.
Just an interesting one. Star Patrol, I think, has got the glue-on shoes the first time. And I know just with the numbers on that, it's not ideal. Like, in terms of if you look at, the overall sample size, and I've done it a while ago, like, I think, your win strike rate's about 3.5%, and ROI is minus 70%. So, again, I'm not saying it can't win, but it's just not ideal, and it's not up. It doesn't become a high. It's a low percentage play.
You'd imagine the market
with the glue,
like
and that would be really interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if it got spat out. But if he didn't have the glue on shoes, he would have been the one I was most keen on. Because I think he's a really good dry track, big track sprinter.
He's got a good turn of foot on him.
Yeah, he's a
if he gets bottled up and then gets the right gap.
Yeah, so just one to note out there, though, the numbers sort of suggest it's a low percentage play with the glue-on shoes, but there's always horses that can defy that.
Is that the feeling in the training ranks as well? Is that a last type resort?
I find it an interesting one, because when you see it go on, I always think they've identified something, though. At least they're doing something about it. Because if there's no gear change, you've got no idea what's going on behind the scenes. So obviously the stats would say it's not a good thing, which is, it's probably right. It's not a good thing because there is something going on there. But at least they're identifying something, and they're trying to do what they can about it. Because if for whatever reason they thought, oh no, we'll get by without it, and there's no gear change, you've got no idea about that. That's a behind the scenes thing. So only thing I'll say about it is, yes, a gear change like that, obviously the stats don't back it up, but for a horse like this, at least they're helping him.
Outstanding.
Can I just ask, Chain of Lightning?
Yeah.
Unlucky first up.
Yep.
C. Williams, low draw, high pressure race. If it just somehow gets a beautiful suck run and late splits, we know she's got a lethal turn of foot. She could possibly, obviously it's that type of race, but you can't not mention it.
Yeah, and the thing is Gate 2 a plus?
Well,
Like, I think it's a horse that can settle in first 4 or 5.
I'm just thinking, if she's close to IME and IME takes her as far as she needs to go and things start to open up. Again, there's a chance nothing opens up for both of them. But if the track's playing fair, close to the fence...
I mean, she's coming... I think that's the right form line.
And
race, the Uncommon James
and
race.
they've aimed for this race.
Absolutely,
C. Williams, he's a bloke that jumps on at the right time for these types of races.
Yeah, he's a Group 1 jockey and he's a star. So he'll pick it right. But he's going to need... Like, Chain of Lightning's going to need luck to win this race. From that draw, I think they would have preferred 9 to 12 or something like that. Get a backside into the race. They're not going to have afforded that opportunity. They're going to have to ride for luck. But as we spoke about at the start, one of these horses is going to get it, and a few probably not.
Have we mentioned it enough?
Boys, I was about to say, I'd love to sit here and talk Oakley Plate with you all
whole
day,
episode,
but we're about to receive an invoice from the studio for being here for 6 hours. So we're going to move on to our back to school segment, which is all about education. You've been absolutely dominating this segment, Jules.
Well, I look forward to listening to Reece today.
Today we
turn my mic off.
Today we're going to touch on staking, and I know we could talk about staking for hours and different ways to do it, but I guess we get so bogged down in form and actually assessing race by race that we forget that one of the most important parts of becoming a profitable and responsible gambler is to be able to stake effectively. And Jules, I guess I want to just hand over to you, give us a little bit of background in the importance of staking and perhaps the best way that you find to stake races.
Yeah, I think to begin with, staking's personal. So as long as, everything with gambling is, it's your personal, what you feel comfortable with. And there's probably 2 main ways you can probably have a punt, and that's level staking. So that's every horse that I have. Say, for example, I've got a certain bank, I might have $50 on every horse. Now that could be if the horse is at $2 or the horse is at $11. I'm still having $50 on every horse. Now that's great if the horse at $11 wins for you, because clearly you're winning because that's expanding. But the unfortunate thing with level staking and the flaw with that is you're spending a lot of your bank on horses theoretically that have only got a 10 or a 9% chance of winning, the same as you think a horse has got a 50% chance of winning. So the other option is proportional staking, and that's the one that I probably advocate. Back when I was at the other joint, we did a punter ed on proportional staking. So, for example, you want to win $100. You have a horse at $2, you'd have 100 on it. So that's simple there. A horse at $5, you'd have $25. So you're still making profit $100 every time. But each time the horse's price gets bigger, you are decreasing your stake. So your bank's not going away. So if you've got a horse at $11, well, in essence, it's a 10% chance or something a little bit less than that of winning. You only have to have $11, you only have to have $10 on it. Because again, you're winning your 100, but you're not building into your bank. And then a horse at $26, you might only have to have $4 on it. Again, you're winning your $100. Now, people look at that and go, I've just backed a $26 hope, but I've only made $100, and they want to have that $50, or they want to have that big stake on it. But what you've got to think about is it's not just about today. It's about next week, and if you want to continue punting, you've got to go the next week and the week. And it's about responsibly punting, and that's your bank, and that's why you have to, I think, proportionally stake. But again, a lot of other people do units and those kinds of things. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. But I think the key factor is don't burn your bank on horses that don't have as much probability of chance of winning compared to horses that if you're going to play in the pointy end, because you'll quickly evaporate your bank.
That almost sounds like common sense.
And sometimes we are very void of that as punters, because we get excited and we want the big payday.
I think you found something at a price.
And increasing stakes as the day goes on to obviously maximise that profit margin. And I think you've made the best point there is when you're staking, you've got to look at it as one long day, don't you? Yeah. In terms of maximising your profit.
And there's layering to that as well. So, for example, if a horse is at $10 but you've marked it $5, then you can stake as if I am backing it as if it is $5. So you're getting overlay on that, and that's what you can do. So there's other layering that's got much more depth to it than just the very simple level staking versus proportional staking. But if you want to play it in for a long, long time, I think proportional staking is the best way to go, especially if you play pointy end of the market. But as I said, it's personal, but you just got to try and do it responsibly.
No, that's great insight, mate. There's plenty of education and articles available as well via the Betfair website if you do want to explore that even further in terms of, I guess, maximising and being a responsible punter with your staking. Royal Randwick, let's head there. We've got a couple of Group 1s on the card, and we're going to look at 5 races. We'll whiz through the weather and track conditions. The rail's +3. It's currently a soft 7. Jules, is that going to have a major effect?
6, did I say this? Sorry.
Yeah,
was it a 6 this morning?
I think it could be a 6 this morning.
Yeah, I think I looked on the website. It was a 6 this morning.
I think they've got perfect weather.
Interrupt.
Mate,
perfect weather as well. So I think it's hot. You've got a game up there I think you have to deal with. So
he's already getting prepared.
He is. That's pure vodka. I assume that's how he umpires.
Probably
seen some of the decisions. So our 3 metres, I think we'll get to the good. So from a circle perspective, I think on speed, and I think for a shoot, I reckon just pretty fair. I think they could come from anywhere. So that's again starting point. Northeasterly wind. Don't think they'll have too much impact on Randwick at all. It's not going to be high enough, so we don't have to worry about that. If it stays wet, the circle races, midfield worse okay. So we're saying if it's dry, on speed's where we want to be. But if it stays wet, which I don't think it will, but just say midfield's not a problem, and the shoot, you really want to be forward if it's really wet at Randwick.
Just with that, with the circle and is that you're saying midfield back okay? Is that?
Yep.
But then sometimes is that, as in you've got to get out, or sometimes in Sydney hard fence. Three back defence can be good.
Yeah,
is there a read on that?
It's just you want to be able. You can blend into the race, no problems. It's not. I think when we talk about forward of midfield, it's like it is a major plus. You are actually at a disadvantage being worse than midfield. Whereas I think if the stats come back to midfield worse, it's just making sure it's making it that the track's fair.
Fair enough.
You can still lead and win. There's no issue there if you're the best horse in the race. It just gives those one. I mean, the starting point for Australian racetracks, no doubt, is forward midfield. It's just the way the tracks are prepared and the drying conditions. That's just what happens.
You can't go wrong.
Correct, exactly.
Well, let's start in race 5, which is the Guy Walter Stakes. It's for the mares over 1,400 metres. It was won by Forbidden Love last year. Now, the key two chances in the market here are Hope in Your Heart and Mirror Vision, who both present first up. Hope in Your Heart comes off what just looked like an okay trial in behind Artorias and Profondo. And then Mirror Vision, last preparation, ran second in the Group 1 Empire Rose and also had a really quiet trial crossing the line with the likes of Zaki. So you gravitating towards the class of the field here, Jules, or looking for a little bit of value?
Well, my first point was, what leads this race? There's just no speed whatsoever. You look at a lot of these horses, they all want to go back, like Mustang Valley, Yearning, Hope in Your Heart, even Mirror Vision to some degree, but I'm actually hoping Mirror Vision first up here off 3 months actually rolls forward.
Yep.
The only real leader for me is Norwegian Bliss, and it's the fit horse on the scene, but probably lacks the class of a few of these other ones, but it probably gets a soft lead. I was hoping, because there were so many horses that I thought would be ridden negative neutral, that Mirror Vision actually might be able to sit in the first 2 or 3.
Yep.
And the way this race sets up, set weight and penalty race, she's in very well, I think, with 55 kilos, domestic rating up there about 104, which is about the highest in the race. I think she can win this race. I think she's got a great turn of foot on her day, and it just sets up that I want to be with the class horse in these kinds of races. As you said, Forbidden Love won this race last year. She was a class animal on her day. So I'm with Mirror Vision, but it's all dependent on they settle in that first 3 or 4 for me.
Yep, so it could be an in-play
for
on
sure.
the exchange for you for Mirror Vision. No plays from myself, and Reece, I think you're shouldering arms to this race as well.
Yeah, didn't get a lot of time on Sydney, unfortunately, but I'm happy to back my man Jules in. If he thinks there's no speed in the race and we see Mirror Vision outside the leader, and she's the class man, then, well, you bet in play, don't you?
Yeah. Sounds like you're all over that. Race number 6 is a Group 2. It's the Sweet Embrace for the 2-year-old fillies, 1,200 metres. Fireburn won this race last year in the slop before going on to win the Golden Slipper. So it's win and you're in. So there's a little bit at stake here for this field. And in terms of class, respectfully, this race to me just looks like it drops away pretty quickly in terms of winning hopes. So you've got Skirt the Law, who looks a proper filly. So won the Magic Millions 2-year-old classic on the Gold Coast, beating Platinum Jubilee, who you can now tie in through Cylinder. You have to respect the form line of Blanc de Blanc, who was 0.2 lengths off Learning to Fly as well in the Millennium, albeit a bit of a cushier run in transit. So, Jules, you're going completely against everything I've just said here, aren't you?
No, I totally agree with everything you say. Those top 2 are panels above the rest. They clearly are. You just got to think, okay, do they need to win this race? Is the grand final for them the Golden Slipper? And you've got a horse that's coming off the Magic Millions who was outstanding. Is this just a pipe opener to get it to absolutely launch again? We speak about this a lot, that it's really hard to get horses to peak twice in a prep, let alone a 2-year-old.
Yeah, that's right. So I was going to say the 2-year-olds.
Yeah, it's another edge to that. And those 2 horses have drawn wide. So do they both just sit back, and if they finish over the top and get over the top of these horses because they got their class, that's great. I'm happy to lay both of them. I'm going to be top price both of these horses. I agree 100% with your footy. They're the best 2 horses in the race by far, but these other ones just might be Johnny or Jenny on the spot, and that could be the key here, and that's how they win the race. So I'm happy to lay the top 2, even though I think they've got a class edge. I just think they might be worse than midfield. And finishing off the grand final in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time, whenever it is.
I'm so comfortable with that explanation because I looked at the run sheet and I'm like, I know this guy's the Messiah, but is he seeing something that no one else can see, laying these two, the 2 top hopes in the market? But yeah, outstanding insight into the preparation. Reece, you're looking at you're the value hunter here on Labour.
I could easily end up with egg on my face here because I haven't had a deep look into it. But Lazargo, what I noticed, and I watched all the trials from the Learning to Fly race, leading into that. Lazargo only had the 1 trial, so had the first up run. I think probably took a fair bit of improvement. You couldn't say she would turn the tables on Blanc de Blanc off that run because she had a cozier run and Blanc de Blanc finished ahead of her. But I thought, just knowing Chris, 1 trial, 1 first up run, this one might be peaking a bit more for this race. Huey gets on too.
We hope. We hope.
We're not sure how he's going at the moment.
True. What options have we got here? I might have to fly up. Sorry. No, I just thought, I probably end up with egg on my face here because I haven't had a close look at the race. But I just remember going through the that first up run and thought, she might have been the one to follow.
Yep.
And we're just getting a little bit better price than the other two. So I'm with you. I'm happy to steer away from those two because they were in a $2 million race first up, which they were probably happy to go in and be very
100%.
competitive in.
Would've thought so.
Good prize money race. And then this probably isn't quite that level. Might be a little bit more of a tick over run. They'd probably go back. Just love to see them hit the line. If they win, they win.
Yep.
And then they go into the big one.
Yep.
Yep, great points. I'll be staying out of that race myself, but we'll head to race 7 now, which is the Group 1 Surround Stakes for the 3-year-old fillies, 1,400 metres, and it just feels as though it's just In Secret is the one they all have to beat, which is probably spot on. And there's 4 other Group 1 winners in the race though, including Zugotcha, She's a Belter, Madame Pommery and Fireburn, and a couple of other exciting prospects in Sunshine in Paris and Cinderella Days as well. So is there a little bit more depth in this race than the market suggests, Jules?
I think there is, but you've got to think that most of them are coming out of this In Secret race. Now, do you think any of them can turn the tables? And I'm going to leave a horse to the side here to begin with. Can any of those horses that got beaten by In Secret first up turn it around? Mm-hmm. And if you look at it and you look at the gate and the jockey, it's hard to justify that. Now, you've also got to point it back to the price and what price you're comfortable with In Secret, but very similar to what it was last start, first up, around that sort of price point of 210, 215, something like that at the moment. And I don't think anything that she beats her, okay, from the way it sort of sets up. She has a habit of missing the start. And again, if she
stepped
does
slow
that,
in the light fingers, but she just went through the
correct.
gears.
And a bigger field here. So if she does that from gate 4 again, does she not get allowed to get the revs up and get to a good spot? Does she not get the 1-1 or anything like that? Is she a pair back? So that's a concern. And then you've got the factor of, okay, so Zugotcha's first up. And we know that Zugotcha got In Secret first up last prep or the prep prior, so has got a profile for that. The problem you have with Zugotcha is it's drawn 11. So probably has to take the medicine and go back. So can it come off In Secret's back with 1 run less than it and beat it? And again, you have to factor that into your mind and go, well, probably not. Does that change my price sensitivity around In Secret? Probably not. And then the complete different form line is the 11, Ruthless Dame, who I think is a really good racehorse as well. Has it got the class of an In Secret? Probably not.
You've got to say Jackano's good form.
Correct. Outstanding
form.
form. You can't, can you? Absolutely. So, and I love the profile of that race that it comes out of, that it was a slowly run race and they zipped home that last
wasn't
400.
a gut buster
Absolutely. So now is ready to explode. It's the one that I could entertain. I don't think anything can beat In Secret out of the same race. I think Zugotcha is going to be giving it a head start, and first up concerns me. Ruthless Dane is the one I could definitely entertain, but I still think the favourite is the winner of this race.
So you'll be backing In Secret.
Correct.
This way. What about you?
Well, look, she's my girl, and I was all for her first up, but just look, I don't want to be against her, but I'm not going to back her. I got to give this mare down the bottom, a filly, a lot more love. She, to the eye, was running through the line. First up, 1,200, got back, come wide, where In Secret was able to cut back to the inside, and she made this filly. I reckon she's going places. She's going to get a lot better run from 2. 1,400, she's going to lap up. She probably really wants a mile to beat her best, but at 30-1 or somewhere thereabouts, I would not be surprised if she's right on the heels of these. I think she can run a hole for sure.
She's out around 40-1. So
there you go.
When he says he likes a bit
It'll probably go 50-1.
He doesn't mince his words, our man Reece Goodwin. That's for sure.
It's just a whole different dynamic from where she drew first up, and she gets the extra furlong. As you said, probably can't turn the tables on In Secret unless she's in front of In Secret at the run, because In Secret might miss it. But she hurdled through the line. Regan obviously likes her. He's sticking with her. So at a price like that, and then also wanted to mention the Kiribati runner. Name escapes me at the moment, but the Jackano form.
Ruthless Dame.
Yeah, Ruthless Dame. Jackano form. How can you knock it? And that, as you said, that nothing out of the In Secret race can probably beat her. But she was the one that threw a bit something in there.
Yep.
In Secret for me. I'm going to keep it really simple for all the reasons that you've spoken about, coming through the light fingers, and I think out to 1,400 is just a big tick second up as well. So In Secret for me in the Group 1 Surround Stakes. Race 8 is the Group 1 Chipping Norton, weight for age, 1,600 metres, and it's all Animo here at the moment. And I guess the big thing is, Jules, you were against Animo in layback so far this season. Are you going to be siding with the big boy?
We're just going to keep going with it. No, we're going with it. So I decided to lay him.
You'll get one.
Well, you hope, but sometimes with these ones I don't have them. Happy to lay him last start. I'm happy to lay him again. But you look at it again and go, okay, I've got to try and, as we spoke about it 2 weeks ago, where are the chinks? There's really none. Again, the gate's perfect, so he sits in the 1-1. or definitely in the first 4. There's no issue there. You look at the field again, and again they're going to be all behind it. I'm just a fan of Hinged as a horse, and I think again she can roll forward.
Yep.
If this race does pan, or this track plays that I think it's going to be advantageous to be on speed and leaders, maybe she gets that little bit of an extra 2 lengths or 3 lengths in front of Animo at some stage, and he's going to mow her down. He's such a superstar and a line chaser that he probably will mow her down. But for the sake of being, I'm a bookmaker, and if I've got a horse at $1.65 and $1.70 and it's a talking horse, I've got to lay those kinds of horses, otherwise I shouldn't be in the game.
What sort of price does Animo become a bet in this? Because there's obviously going to be a lot of punters that want to back Animo, and he's got this cult following, doesn't he, at the moment in racing? So what's the right price for a bet?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because first up I thought he was going to get to black figures. He really didn't. He sort of held that $1.60, $1.65 was probably your best price throughout. I think that's going to happen again on Saturday. There's a lot of action that'll probably be done at Betfair probably Thursday night and Friday morning by some certain individuals or corporations to keep this price in. He's such a big talking horse. They don't really want him to get out to a massive price, so they knock it off and do some stuff through Betfair and then keep that price in. So they sell him for a shorter price, but because he's such a popular horse, they can afford to do that, and he really doesn't drift out. So it's always fascinating to see a market with these talking horses, and Animo's become this big talking horse now that there's a little bit of a false economy sort of Thursday, Friday, Saturday morning with his price. But at the death is always the true price, and we've seen it that he's holding those really short $1.60, $1.65. So I don't think we see him get to black figures. I wish he would, because it'd sort of mean that I'm half right. And then you'd be happy to back him sort of back on the way through. But he's just dominating these sort of weight for age races at the moment, isn't he, with his pattern?
Yeah. And Reece, you like one that comes through the Group 2 at Apollo here from a two-way standpoint.
There's going to be a lot of people that are going to look at me funny. Mwunga, he was good. He was good. He's been obviously talked about a number of times of being just below them. I think, is Huey on him too? Might be in a bit of trouble there.
He is,
because he needs an aggressive rider.
What can you ride at? Are you at 56?
We'll cut both legs off. I'll make that. No breastplate, half over. But we'll see what we can do. But look, I just thought his run was really good first up, and if he can get the right run and something goes wrong with him, each way play him. Now, I just got to ask you, Jules, Fangirl, are they any chance of being somewhat positive on her one day? What was her sectionals like against him? Like,
but this is what she does.
Can she beat him sectionally wise if they ride her a little bit closer? Or is the only reason her sectional's so good because they're riding her cold?
That's the thing. You're robbing Peter to play Paul.
She was frustrating the other
because the problem with her is if they do ride her warm, does she knock up and it just doesn't go against what she do? And Gate 1 is, I don't know if that's ideal, but is the situation with Gate 1 that they probably get 3 back rail and they just ride for pure luck. So they don't worry about anything else. If they get the luck, they know she's going to sprint amazing that last 200, and she's probably got a good 200-metre sprint in her that she can probably run 10.5, to be honest. And maybe they do that from Gate 1. So she's always a chance to get you, but if you ride her warm, does that completely
finish?
Correct. Yeah, it's an interesting one.
She's certainly in a few black books.
Me on Animo, he's a champion. Don't get me wrong, but I've never seen a horse get gifted the best run of the race in so many races. Like, it's like they almost don't want to beat him.
It's just
he's found the 1-1. So even in the Cox Plate, he found the 1-1.
Yeah.
Like, it's like no one's. I know he's drawn well majority of the time, but it's like everyone's scared to go near him. He's that good of a horse. It's like they don't even want to beat him.
I found James McDonald's comments really interesting post-race, first up in the Apollo, how he said that Animo has almost like lost a bit of his brilliance, like in terms of that ability to really put them away. And I'm like, well, he doesn't have to if he keeps lobbing in the 1-1s, does he? Like, he's just going to continue to win races.
Apart from the Caulfield run when he wobbled around the corner, he was in the right spot, and he wobbled around the corner. We all thought he was in trouble. He's basically never had anything really go against him, has he?
No, that's a very good
against
point.
the elite, you know.
Yeah, and I suppose in the McKinnon at the end of the prep last, he ended up 2 pairs back or 3 pairs back.
Yeah, and that sort of didn't
and that was the key.
But you could have also argued it was an end of prep run.
Correct,
too.
no doubt. But I just find it really interesting that James McDonald actually has some real intent from the barriers with this horse. Like even first up, he actually really hunted to be in that spot.
Do you think
he demanded to be there?
Do you think he's got that McKinnon run in mind, thinking if I just fall out on this horse's neck, I can get in a spot where he will get beat? So he actually has to be on his...
I think so.
Yeah.
I think also he realises that a lot of his rivals probably can't get past him. that he's such a good line chaser that once it's
Something
very
comes
hard to
him,
get past.
he'll go again.
Correct. And I think they've learnt that with him. It's taken a while once he was 2-3-year-old, as we've spoken about a lot. But now they've found the key to him, and they're so positive that these horses like Mwanga, who I think's got a really good race in him one day, but he's always chasing because he's 2-3 lengths off, and he needs something wrong to go with Animo to get over the top. You'd love something like Mwanga to be able to have some gate speed, you know, because that's how they get Animo, a good horse, and that's why I'm sort of thinking Hinged is a chance because I think she's got ability. Yeah, absolutely.
So Hinged is the each way play, laying Animo,
Yes.
Mwanga each way, shouldering arms for me. Hey, let's quickly head through the race 9, which is this is a big come down here, isn't it? 2 Group 1s into the time-honoured Liverpool City Cup. It's a Group 3 over 1,300 metres. We might just get through this one quickly, Jules, because you have a little each way play for us.
Yeah, I just think Rocketing By comes out of a really good form line, so I'm happy to be with it. So it's about $13, $14 or double figures at least. So I think you can back it each way. I'm taking on a lot of these other form. That Quantico form line, I know it was a bunch finish. They really didn't do much on the clock. The other horse that's a favourite, that Think About It, it's sort of been running sort of on the min in lower grade, and I know it's on the min here, but it ran outside of standard. The last 400, 200 wasn't through the roof. I'm happy to take it on. I just thought at a price, Rocketing By could give you a bit of a sight.
Have you heard of this top weight? Profondo?
Oh. Well, to be honest, it's good that he's in the race because I actually thought he'd gone elsewhere.
I wasn't going to mention him, and you brought him up.
My bad.
Yeah, he's still in single figure odds. Go ahead.
So by all reports, he's trialled well.
Okay, perfect.
So I don't know. I'll start watching Profondo's trials when they start putting prize money up in trials, and then it'll make it.
It's not a bad way to look at racing that at all. Well done, boys. That's the Randwick card. Let's go to our week 2 of our segment, and we've got the successful Jacko. He's joining us again. This is Take On Me, and this is what Jacko is putting up on the exchange for followers this week.
Take me on week number 2. This week I'm keen to lay another horse. We're going to Sandown for Blue Diamond Stakes Day in the Oakley Plate, race 9 at number 9. Asphora, she's $5.50 with most of the corps at the moment. I'm putting up $700 at $7 on Betfair. She's been the trendy spruik hype horse for this race, probably ever since her win at Caulfield last preparation. She resumed last prep with a benchmark 78 win at Sandown on the hillside. This is a little bit different. She then was luckless, almost fell at the valley, and then won the McCafe sprint into the Furphy sprint down the straight, beating Verenskova and a blue jacket in Zapateo, which is in this race and probably should have beat her on that occasion. Both of her dominant wins last prep were off slow speed. She's not going to get that here on the weekend. This is a real baptism of fire first up, and although she's jumped out well on 2 occasions, you'd expect that for an Oakley Plate favourite. I've got Lofty Strike, Chain of Lightning, I Am Me, Zapateo, Star Patrol, all marked ahead of her in the market. I couldn't mark anything in this race under $6.50. So for that reason, I'm keen to lay her. I put up $700 at $7 on Betfair for a $4,200 liability. That's race 9, number 9, Asphora.
Okay, so Jacko is joining you, Reece, in laying Asphora, putting that up there on the exchange. So punters, if you want to take up Jacko's offer, hop on the exchange and do so in the Oakley Plate. Boys, we've got to wrap up now with our best backs and our best lays for the weekend. Jules, we've seemed to start with you all the time, so why change a winning formula?
Yeah, well, not winning at all. Race 2, number 3, Shuffle Dance is my best. I think it's the right form. I'm absolutely petrified of She's Lickety Split with that inside draw that maybe she goes a little bit forward, but I like the form line of Shuffle Dancer. I think she can beat this a lot.
Best back for yourself?
Normally I wouldn't make a best back in a 2-year-old race, but I'm going to stick with Barber. I think he is a good horse. I think he might be Godolphin's one this season that's going to be their good horse, so I'm happy to be with him as the best bet in the diamond.
And my best bet, I'm keeping it nice and simple. Group 1 Surround Stakes in Secret. I think she just gets the job done up there. Who are we laying this week, boys? My favourite segment?
Pericles in race 5 at Sandown. I think it's got an undeniable chance, absolutely. At the price point currently, I am happy to be laying at Pericles.
Asphora for me, I'm going to be with Jackson. I just think she's been in races that have suited her, and this the high pressure of the Oakley Plate. I think that'll undo her.
Yeah, first up in an Oakley plate. I can't wait to see how she goes. My lay of the weekend is in race 8 at Sandown. It's number 1. I'm Thunderstruck, taking on the big boy there. Boys, it's been a lot of fun again. I believe Tommy's back next week, so I think I'll get a few weeks break before I...
And then you're back again?
I think I'll come back later.
Oh, beautiful.
You will be seasoned laybackers when I come back, so this will be a really...
I'd say the show will be disbanded. Boy.
Yeah, correct, yeah. I'm with you.
It's the number 1 show in racing. But all the best this weekend, punters. As always, gamble responsibly. 1-800-858-858. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week on Layback.
Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858.